Do you understand? This bamboo becomes a sword.
One lovely morning, I had this stupid idea of creating an 8-bit computer from scratch. And I call it stupid because although right now it feels satisfying, back then and during the time that I was struggling with the build of it was frustrating to the death. I mean, I just didn't know and I honestly didn't believe that this thing will actually work. But anyway, let's take things from the beginning. Initially, me and a friend of mine designed the schematics, the circuits on EasyEDA, on a program meant for that kind of work. Although we started from scratch, we based our circuits on a very simple 8-bit previous designs. This is how the 3D model picture exported from the software looks like. So the basic idea was to create the simplest and most minimal computer ever built with the least chips possible that would have some sort of use. I mean, that could possibly run BASIC or have a typewriter software or do arithmetic calculations. So the idea was to build the world's most minimal computer. The architecture of this computer is very simple, is actually as simple as it could get. It has one CPU, one memory chip, one video chip and one EEPROM. For graphics we used the modern chip called VLA81, which is a replacement for the ULA that was the original graphic chip of the ZX81. Our architecture is kind of similar but also a bit different on the level that our machine is 100% ZX81 compatible. After completing the designs, which turned out to be filled with flaws and problems, I decided to accompany it with a small monitor that is primarily used as a car monitor. Then I ordered the PCBs and all its components from China. I had to buy 5 units. That was the minimum order. The quality of the PCBs was excellent. Although I didn't trust this Chinese company in the first place, it turned out to be a company of high quality. So then I had to solder the components. Soldering was something I haven't done before, so I burned my hands several times. And then I reached the point where my PCB was assembled, but of course it didn't run. And that was frustrating but also expected. So the troubleshooting process started, which was really frustrating. I really didn't think that my machine would ever run. At that point I had spent like a couple of weeks without results, so I felt that I need the help of a more experienced computer engineer. So I started asking people left and right. There were few people on Facebook who volunteered to help, but help in the way that they wanted, not in the way that I wanted. And what they considered as help was to inflate my balls over the telephone, waffling. And I noticed that some people don't really want to help you, they just need to express themselves and jab out all that energy that they have inside. And the way that I wanted them to help me was to send them my prototype computer and find out what was wrong with it, not waffle over the telephone about the million things that could be wrong with it. Anyway, at some point I was lucky enough to find a spectacular guy who helped me, and I'm much thankful to him. for finding all the errors that detained my homebrew computer from initializing. To give you an idea, the clock that I used was wrong. It was very fast for the computer that I was creating. I was in the need of a relatively slow clock up to 8 megahertz, and I was trying to make the machine run with a 27 or 30 megahertz clock, which was impossible, and also few cables were also wrongly connected. I was trying to make this machine work for weeks, and I had traced down most of its flaws. I am cleaning up the boards here with a toothbrush and some isopropylic alcohol, taking out all the raspings that were caused by soldering. Most people will tell you to use a breadboard when constructing a homebrew computer. I really don't know if that is the best choice, as you increase the chances of having faulty connections and thus more problems. On the contrary, with the PCBs, you eliminate the chances of having faulty connections. The PCB was 100% as we designed it. Nothing was shorted or floating. But anyway, perhaps it's better to start with a breadboard. For writing or else flashing the EEPROM, you will need an EEPROM programmer like that one. It comes with a software. The only thing you see is the machine code in hexadecimal. Those are either instructions or data in the form of hexadecimal. For the sake of this video, I won't use the mini monitor that I bought. I will use a larger monitor, otherwise you won't be able to see anything. And as you can see, my homebrew computer works. Witnessing my computer work was one of the happiest moments of the year, if not of the decade. For the moment, my computer doesn't have any operating system. I was able to program the EEPROM to display the main characters, and from now on the process of building an operating system starts. So, plans for the future. We are currently working on version 2, which will include a sound chip, not actually a sound chip, but an I/O decoder chip, a better keyboard with Cherry MX switches, because I was totally ignorant the first time, and I installed some really expensive and rare switches. And not only that, but the positioning had also issues. Some keys are not seated correctly. More or less everything went wrong on my first attempt. But the important thing is that it works now, and the second version will be much more satisfying and with its own operating system. Hopefully, that might be a port of BASIC or a port of assembler. I don't know yet. I'm still exploring possibilities. So at the end, I must say that you have to have a big love for computer and in general electronics in order to be able to appreciate your project, because after all you are not creating anything new, you are just absorbing knowledge and information. I might create a website for this computer, so check below in the description. You might find its official website, and I will see you, or you will see me to be more exact, in episode 2.